Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Paul, I'm with the Dicey Review, and tonight we're going to be looking at the 1 to 6 player game New Beginnings from Blue Fairy Games. We're going to be taking an in-depth look at the game and our thoughts about it. In New Beginnings, players are taking the role of a team of bees trying to impress the queen. The queen is ready to take a swarm of bees and start a new hive somewhere else, but she's only going to take the best bees with her. So you have to manage your resources and your team of bees most efficiently to protect the hive from danger and disease and eventually win the favor of the queen. After playing New Beginnings for a while, I've seen a few things stand out that I really enjoy. New Beginnings is a 4X strategy game that doesn't take all day, and this is an amazing thing because some of the most amazing gaming experiences that you can have are those 6 to 8 hour marathon gaming sessions where you're playing Twilight Imperium 4, or maybe you're playing Eclipse, or something in that vein where you're just really digging in and experiencing all that those types of games can offer, and including political intrigue and trading and bartering and exploration and all of these wonderful things. But the only problem with that is that not everyone has 6 hours to devote to a gaming session, and more often than not, those games may or may not hit the table just based on the type of group that you have. That's one of the things that I really liked about New Beginnings, is that it has that feel of a exploration, exploitation 4X game, but it'll take an hour to 2 hours, or if you really know the game, maybe even 30 to 45 minutes. So I really like that the designer has been able to shrink that time frame down, but still maintain a lot of those meaty decisions that you have to make in those styles of games. One of the other things I really enjoy about New Beginnings are the unique units. This was one of the coolest things to me, and probably one of the more unique aspects of the game. Each player is going to be controlling a hive that they have access to, and everyone starts off with drones on the board, but you can also collect nectar in the game and use it to train your upgraded units. And the really cool thing about the upgraded units is that each one has a unique ability that it can use. So for instance, on each player's turn, you have 3 action points. And a lot of the actions that you take will cost an action point. But if you train certain units, those actions are free, and you can take as many as you want to. So for instance, you could train a scout, and a scout can explore different hexes on the board and do as many as they can do, which is a really cool ability. Or you might be able to train a soldier that will go and fight for you and capture other bees. Or you might be able to train a nurse, which has really powerful movement abilities and the ability to capture larvae that you can use to reclaim some of your bees if they're captured. So there's all of these different units that each move in a different way and each have a special ability. And depending on how your board is laid out, it really can affect the strategy of the types of units that you want to train and when you train those units. And that can really affect how your gameplay pans out, especially depending on the types of decisions that your opponents are making as well. Because if your opponents are really going on the offensive and trying to attack your hive, then you might have to train some offensive units to combat that. Or if your opponents are just really focused on collecting resources and exploring and just kind of going a peaceful route and just trying to get close to the queen, then maybe you want to try and train units that will be a more efficient forager or a more efficient exploration unit. So there's really a lot of variability and a lot of decisions to be made in the types of units that you train, and just a lot of strategic depth in those unique units. And that's one of the other things that I really enjoyed about the game. There's a chess-like element to New Beginnings as well that I found very interesting. So as I mentioned, each player is going to have their own special team of upgraded bees that they can train. And in addition to these bees having specific powers that they can do for free, they also have a set movement pattern, which is very interesting because you start off with 9 drones in your hive that you can use to move and forage and claim things and all the different actions that you can take in the game. But these starting bees have a very particular movement pattern, things that they can, places that they can move on the board, and the way that they're rotated matters, and the way that the obstacles are set up around them matters, because they can't go through things. They're blocked by certain obstacles. But there are different bees that you can upgrade, like I said, and they each have a unique movement pattern. Some of the bees can jump. Some of the bees will only be able to jump. Some of the bees are able to move, the same amount in all different directions without having to rotate. So there's this really cool aspect of, chess-like strategy in New Beginnings, where you have specific units that move in a specific way, and then on top of that movement, those special powers that I mentioned previously really add another layer of strategy and another layer of decision making when you're training these units. But I really like the fact that you can learn each one of the units and how they move, and just know it's kind of like that comparison that you're doing in your head whenever you're playing chess. It's like, okay, the bishop can move this way, the knight can move this way, and so you really have that kind of decision making when you're thinking about what units you want to utilize and when. I really enjoyed that chess-like element to New Beginnings. One of the other great things about New Beginnings is the fact that there are multiple modes of play that will greatly increase replayability with this game. So the standard setup is that each player is going to have a flower type that they will remove a certain tile and place it in a specific spot on the board, and then shuffle the rest of the tiles and place them face down. So you have some variability with the beginner setup. But one of the great things is that you can also include new modes where you will make setup more variable by not placing specific tiles in specific places and making it more variable in that way. Or you can have a setup variant where you can completely mix all of the flower types, so that not all of one flower is going to be in one section, which means you may have a high concentration of a specific resource that you don't normally have on your side of the board, or you may have a tunnel that allows you to move in a very different way from the basic setup, which makes things really interesting. And on top of the variability with that setup, there's a way that you can play with a semi-cooperative mode and a fully cooperative mode, which will allow you to play the game solo as well, where you're in a fully co-op mode where you're trying to gather resources and you're fighting against the wasps that become NPC players when you reveal them. So there's all kinds of variability within the base box. Now, some players who enjoy abstract strategy games like chess and Hive and Talk and things like that really like to dig into a game system and just master it completely, and almost make it a mathematical experience where they know exactly how the game works, and they're going to completely react off of what their opponents do. And there's a lot of beauty in mastering a game to that level. But one of the things that I think is really great about New Beginnings is that the system is there to where you can really kind of dig in and get the game down on that type of level. But at the end of the day, there is some variability that will create a new challenge every time, depending on how the board is set up. And I think that might really challenge players that enjoy this type of game, or those types of game that I mentioned before, to make decisions on the fly and be very tactical in their decisions based on how the board is revealed and how their opponents execute their strategy as well. So I really like the variability with setup and the different game modes offered in the base box. The last thing that I'd really like to mention that I personally enjoy about New Beginnings is the unique theme. I know that when I first got this game and opened it up, I thought that the theme was really fun and uplifting and beautiful, and I thought that a game about trying to be the most efficient team of bees that you can and trying to impress the queen of the hive is a very unique theme, and a theme that I feel is easier to get more people on board with. It's not necessarily heavily based in a military strategy, or it's not something that's just really heavy on the sci-fi side that may not be as accessible to a larger group of people. I can see families playing this game. I can see casual friends playing this game, whereas it's not necessarily one of those deep, dark themes that sometimes can bring you down. It's a very lighthearted theme that is fun and beautiful to look at. So I really enjoyed the unique theme of New Beginnings. I really think that fans of abstract strategy games are going to gravitate to New Beginnings. Fans of, like I mentioned previously, chess, fans of Hive, fans of Tak, fans of games like Onitama, things like that, where you have, abstract strategy games where you have units with set, movement patterns and set abilities that they can do. I think that this game has a lot of that style built in, and players that enjoy that type of an experience, I think, might really enjoy New Beginnings as well. And also players who really enjoy 4X games. If you really enjoy the exploration, the unknown, the trying to react to your opponents and what they're doing, and trying to expand across the board and really explore everything, and be as efficient as you possibly can, and really having to react to the types of resources that you're discovering, things like that. A lot of that is built into this box. But like I mentioned earlier, the great thing about it is that it's not an all-day experience, but it is a fun experience when you play the game, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. And that's something that I really enjoy about the game, and I think players who really enjoy that 4X experience will get enough of that feel from New Beginnings to really have a good gameplay experience as well. So those types of gamers, I think, will really enjoy New Beginnings. And even if you don't like those types of games, I know that personally I tend to gravitate towards Euro games. And I say that I'm an Omni gamer. I'll play pretty much anything, but I really enjoy Euro games. I had a great experience with New Beginnings, and I had a fun time whenever I played. So, I think that even if this isn't your jam, the thing that you go for most often, you might still have a good experience playing New Beginnings, and I would recommend that you give it a try. I feel like New Beginnings is very accessible, and what I mean by that is a lot of 4X games tend to rely very heavily on a military theme, or a lot of combat, or maybe really dense player interaction where somebody is having to really negotiate and kind of play with the intricacies of the game system. There's a lot of intrigue and politics and things like that. And so, a lot of those 4X games have a really dense, meaty theme, which is part of the beauty of a 4X game, is the reason that a lot of players love those types of experiences. But I think that the theme of New Beginnings and kind of the way that the game is presented might be more accessible to a really broad range of fans, of gamers, because I can see younger kids enjoying the theme of New Beginnings. I can see families of all different makeups. I can see, friend groups, gaming groups. If somebody really enjoys lighter games or medium weight games, they might be willing to give New Beginnings a try, because it doesn't have the appearance of something that has 12 different races of aliens, and you have all of these different ships that you have to maintain, and all of these different tracks and cubes and units that you have to manage. It really does have a pretty streamlined feel, which I think makes it a more accessible experience than some of the really heavy games. And like I said earlier, that isn't to say that the game doesn't have meaty choices. It absolutely does, and it has multiple moments where when you're playing with someone, you have to completely adjust your strategy and really kind of turn the gears on in your brain and try and really react to what they're doing. But at the same time, it has a very light, colorful appearance. It has, it's a field of flowers, and the art, in the flowers is very beautiful, and it looks very appealing. So I think that it has a very accessible theme, and it has a very accessible presentation, while still maintaining a lot of meaty choices that may be able to draw somebody in and allow them to kind of learn and fall in love with this type of a game system. So I think it's really accessible, especially for a 4X style game. So the designer of New Beginnings, Matt Parrish, has a plan to launch this game on Kickstarter in late November of this year, 2018. Now, assuming that the Kickstarter funding is successful, the game would potentially release in Q2 of 2019. But the great thing about this game is that very soon you'll be able to play it on Tabletopia. You can go online and get a feel for how the game plays. And one thing that I would like to mention is that we will be doing a full how to play video that we will really go in depth on, how to play the game, all the different interactions, making sure that all of the different situations with movement and line of sight and things like that are mentioned so that you'll know how to play. But you can get a head start and play it on Tabletopia. The other thing to mention is that the designer is going to be at a lot of conventions this year. The closest convention that you can go see Matt at very soon is going to be Gen Con. He'll be at Gen Con doing the game. He also plans to be at PAX West, Retro Game Con, and PAX Unplugged, so there are plenty of chances for you to go and get a hands-on demo of the game and meet Matt, who is a very nice guy. I got to play this game with him on Tabletopia myself and was really impressed with the gameplay, and that kind of got me started on really going through a few solo plays that I enjoyed quite a bit, and also playing with my wife. So I think that it would be a good use of your time if you're able to go to Gen Con, if you're able to take an hour or two and go on to Tabletopia and play the game. You might end up really enjoying it. And also look for it to come out on Kickstarter as well. If this is the style of game that you like, and if you're one of those player groups that I mentioned earlier, then you may enjoy this game quite a bit, and I would recommend checking it out on Kickstarter when it does hit. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below or email me directly at thedicey@gmail.com. And once again, be on the lookout for the how to play video. And I'm going to try and do a solo playthrough of the game so that you can really see the interactions with that mode as well. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.